And we get it rolling on the Krug Show. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day. It is August the 22nd, 11:03 on the West Coast. JT O'Sullivan from the quarterback school is in the house. Super fired up to have JT here. His quarterback, the quarterback school, JT's show on YouTube is just absolutely a revelation. 340,000 subs right now, blowing away the Krug Show and everybody else on YouTube. JT, of course, you know that name. JT is a guy who could tell you where to go buy a beer in New Orleans, Frankfurt, Germany, Chicago, Illinois, Saskatchewan. He knows his way around Regina. The guy's played in the CFL. He went to the same high school as my nephews, the great Henry and Daniel Kruger, Jesuit High School. He's a Marauder. He went to the same college as my wife, the great UC Davis. I won't hold it against him because I am a Sac State guy myself. But he's with us to talk football. JT, good to see you.
What's up, Larry? That was quite the intro. I appreciate that.
Well, I didn't even mention that you're an ex-Niner during the Mike Martz era. Now, every time I watch your videos, JT, and you talk about pass protection, I think, you know what? I bet you he carved out his pass protection theories while playing for the Niners because there wasn't a lot of pass protection back in those days.
No, those were back in the that was the tail end of the 7-step drop frontier open edges world. That it was not a fun spot to be in sometimes. But yeah, no, those are big collisions back there. I don't know if I ever said that. This is not probably the intent of your story, but it reminded me when you said that. I actually got a really great intro into NFL pass protection. My second year in the league, I went to the offensive line coach in New Orleans. I think his first name was Jack Henry. And we met every Friday after practice, probably the last thing in the world he wanted to do. He wanted to get the hell out of there. He met with me for a half hour, and we went through each different pass protection over the course of the season. And it was like an awesome tutorial that I just lucked into. It was pretty sweet.
Well, you got your degree in English from Davis. You got a PhD at University of San Diego. What's your PhD in?
Leadership studies.
Terrific. And how old is the QB school? Where was it born out? Was it your idea? Did somebody give you the idea? It's obviously incredibly popular.
Oh, well, I appreciate the kind words. It came out of me basically being done with school, being done with the doc program, and looking for what was next and seeing if I wanted to get back into football at all. I knew what I didn't want to do with football, but I'd loved football for a long time and had basically taken like a mental sabbatical, going back to school and not paying attention to football. And so my brother was in the podcast world and still is in the podcast world. And so he basically said, if I was going to do this, I would go video versus podcast for a number of different reasons. But football's perfect for video. And there's not necessarily anybody in the space at the time doing the quarterback centric thing. And so I was like, yeah, I'll give it a run for it and see if I want to get back into football. And then the problem is that I liked it a lot more than other people liked it before other people liked it. And so I knew I was going to enjoy doing it. And so then it has just picked up traction every year. And this will be the 6th fall, I think.
So, awesome, man. It is awesome. I love it. I look forward to it. Some of the questions that, I get a chance to sit down with Shanahan and the players and ask questions. And a lot of times, I feel more empowered asking questions after I've seen your QB school and seen you go through just your thoughts. And it could be on a route combination. It could be on something involving Shanahan. And one of the things that I've seen you evaluate many times that you don't like when they line guys up 5 yards in the backfield, and almost it kind of has a CFL look to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, there is some CFL vibes to it.
Every time you've called that out like at least 3 or 4 times in the last year.
More than that way, way more than that. I will say that I appreciate, I guess, the motion part of it grew on me a little bit with the like shuffle motion. I could see the value of that. And then the one time where they brought McCaffrey back across for a little like cross flat sneak for a touchdown that I thought was pretty cool. But the part where they shift him and line up and stop, I refuse. That does not make sense. I refuse to think that is good football. I understand that they do it, but we'll see if anybody else picks it up and copies it.
I love your intellectual breakdowns of film study, and as somebody who did quality control in the Canadian League, it really does take me back to a lot of the film sessions that we had, going through every possible nuance. And I was a defensive quality control guy, so I looked at Flutie and Jeff Garcia and Anthony Calvillo and all the different guys who were playing quarterback at the time in the Canadian League. And it was interesting. It was challenging. And I don't think people understand the mental hurdles that it takes to be really good at pro football, whether it be in Canada or the NFL. To me, the QB school kind of illustrates a little bit of all the variables that go into it that are so much beyond the casual fan's grasp in a lot of ways. So let's go into your breakdown on Brock Purdy in his week 2 performance. Didn't play week 1 against Tennessee, did play in week 2 against the Saints. And some of the things that you highlight about Purdy are things that he clearly has spent a lot of time working on. Most specifically, he does play with a pretty consistent base with his feet under him. He does play in good rhythm. The ball seems like it comes out on time pretty consistently with accuracy. I've seen in this preseason an increased level of kind of decisiveness in his footwork that all probably goes back to his film study and his knowledge of this offense. So before we get into some particular plays on Brock, give me your overall view of how you feel about him as a prospect and how he's evolved this summer as opposed to what you saw maybe a year ago.
Well, I mean, I will start with just the overall player aspect. I think, and forgive me if you guys talk about it all the time because you're in the 49er world, but it's such a great story. Sometimes I think you can really forget because it's slowly become a little bit more normal, but to go where he went in the draft and then to take advantage of his opportunity and basically overcome the number 3 pick in the draft and solidify this spot as his, and he's earned it through playing at a really high level. Well, it's an awesome story. And I just really pull for him. And especially from someone who I can remember his college film and remember being excited. And then I can also remember being like, hey, did we get a regression here the final year? He played a lot of college football. The film, for whatever reason, wasn't quite as good at the tail end as it was maybe on the way up. And so then to be able to do that and take advantage of his opportunity and to do just what you said, he walked in there immediately and played with great base. You can see the quickness, the kind of twitch that he plays with. He might not be a dynamic, straight line runner, but he can move, he can evade, he can create, he can extend. And that's the way the position has evolved. And I think that's really what he's done and put his stamp on this version of the offense is his capacity to be decisive, to do the things that Shanahan wants, and to add on, to extend, to create. Now, normally that's really good. This preseason, we saw, potentially what can happen sideways when you throw it and don't see everybody on the field. But I would never want to lose that in his game. That's one of my favorite parts of what he does.
My favorite part of where he's at right now, JT, is he's got, and I would say this to him if I, talk to him in the locker room, he's got his dial of risk reward at the exact right setting. Like, I hope no coach ever screws it up. I hope no experience ever screws it up. What I'm talking about is that, that over aggressiveness to try to fit the ball in a spot you really can't versus I'm going to take chances and try to challenge the boundaries versus I'm going to be safe with the football, take care of the football, not give it away. I think this guy is as good as almost any young quarterback at this point in his history of protecting the football and yet maintaining aggressiveness. And you played the position. It's a very difficult place to get to. And he seems like he's there and has been able to stay there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would add on that there is an element that is interesting with him in this system is for whatever reason, it feels like in the past, this system has maybe had guardrails up on the position where that either they didn't have the capacity or they weren't asked to, or they wasn't promoted. But he basically has kind of said, I'm going to put my own stamp on it and done exactly what you said and had that kind of a little bit more risk to it. I think the other thing that's hard for me to remember all the time, because I have many problems, but one of my problems is I watch a lot of different teams, and so I'll
Right.
forget sometimes, like, "Oh, hey, he's coming back from a big time surgery last year." Like, it's not gonna feel perfect at the start of the year, and so sometimes I'll be like, "Ah, I wish he would rip this deep, corner, deep flag, deep pylon," and realize, maybe he was operating at less than 100% for part of the season, and so you have to build into that part of it. For me, that's something that's just another added layer on the impressive journey that this dude's been on in his short career so far.
One of the things that you kind of were critical of this week is you didn't love the play design or the route combination on the play where Brock took a pretty good hit from the right defensive end. I think it was Chase Young. And what I love about the QB school is that you'll take the time to show, excuse me, the wide angle, sideline wide, the end zone wide. Um, Give us a bunch of different angles. You don't rush through it. You take your time. I really like it. I've learned a lot of football. I know lots of people in the chat have as well. But in this particular play, you were critical because the slot wide receiver ran the go. And it really didn't put any pressure on 34, the outside corner. The outside receiver ran whatever the in breaking route was. I forget exactly what that route was. But you didn't love the route combination, and you kind of called it out. Do you think that those combinations in the preseason are designed, or is that by strict design, or are we potentially seeing something that from time to time that just comes about? Maybe it was a mistake, maybe it was an oversight. How much of what we're seeing in this part of the year do you think is really truly Shanahan design?
I mean, I would think it's all Shanahan designed, or at least approved. He might not necessarily have, the same kind of oversight over the preseason if he's not the play caller per se. I don't know how it worked out in that
Because
game.
he didn't call plays all throughout this preseason. He for the first time ever, he's actually letting an assistant call some plays a little bit this summer.
My thing with that play, and I remember that play, and the thing that and again, it's hard in the preseason because I don't know their personnel at all. Like, you would
Right.
think that the person who's running that deep clear out route is going to be your fast burner and get through there. And so, is it weird that he's doing it from the number 2 and it takes a little bit longer? Yes, but also I love switch releases at the line of scrimmage. There's different ways to create rubs and different mismatches and leverages. So there's reasons to do it. But if you're playing quarterback and hey, the clear is coming from inside and he's got to run farther, you just know that that's got the capacity to potentially muddy that pitcher. And if he gets jacked at all at the line of scrimmage, then it's going to take even more time. And I think my thing was that, throwing that kind of blind throw when you could just, hey, let's reset, work the backside, things you see Brock do all the time, that for whatever reason just didn't happen on that play.
As far as Brock this summer, it's hard to evaluate, right? Because he's played some high level football. He's played in the Super Bowl. He's played in a couple NFC Championship games. But to me, what I'm seeing is that when you take away, as you call them, the Avengers, you take away some of the incredible weapons, and there's more pressure. And not only is there more pressure, there's a combination of more pressure. There's less space on the field. And the word that I've heard you use a lot in QB school is wonky. Things get a little wonky when you take away a lot of the premier talent. I don't know. I feel like I'm watching Brock this summer, and I'm seeing a guy who looks a little impatient, a little like that drive where he ran around and threw the interception. And he basically didn't see the corner on the other side of the field, kind of lurking and reading his eyes. It was a terrible play for several reasons, and you highlighted it. But that was such an uncharacteristic play. And then the other play where he's trying to find Braden Willis on the sideline, and he yelled at Willis at the end of the play, come back to the ball along the sideline, and Willis didn't read that. He's a young player. And Brock ran out of bounds and took a sack. And it's like he would never do that in the regular season. And it just seems like his footwork, his timing, his decision-making are his strengths. But at least in this preseason, I feel like his decision-making has taken a back step. And I don't know if it's something to worry about. I don't think it is, but I'm definitely seeing some questionable decision-making from Brock this summer.
Well, I mean, y'all would know more than I would. I wouldn't look too closely at one preseason game where he plays a small amount with, guys that he probably isn't going to play a lot of regular season snaps with. Now, that's not fair to them or, to the whole preseason setup. That part of it is different too. I think he's proven himself as a decision maker
Yeah.
to be able to give some grace with that stuff. I will say that when he extends and has that creative element to it, I feel like, that's a big positive for his game, but you're always living on the edge. I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. When you go full field reverse and throw back, you never really, know and can see the whole field like that. So that part of it was, one of those one-off ones I think you learn from. You put it in a box, you never see it again. The one where he stepped out of bounds on the, for the sack, that's almost, I almost feel like, and I think I said it in the video. Hopefully I said it. Like those are almost my issues more than anyone else. Like the difference in -2 yards in a preseason game means nothing. But if you take that sack in the season, I can tell you that I'm going to guess that Chris would lose his mind. I know a lot of offensive line coaches that would come out of their skin for a sack like that when you could just throw it away. And so those types of things to me, are not that big of a deal. They're more my issues than the offense's issues, the Brock's issues. And so I would just look for him to continue to kind of build on what he's already proven he can do. And then that's the thing that I feel confident with him and this group is they're proven. They really are. Now they just have to do it when it matters most. And that's not a fair thing to judge anybody, but that's really their reality and the standard that they've set as an organization, as an offense.
You were a 6th-round pick in the 2002 draft at UC Davis. He was the last pick in the draft, the 7th-round pick. When you watch him, and you've read his story, and you said you watched him at Iowa State there in Ames, why do you think people missed on Brock Purdy? Or is it that Brock Purdy that he had kind of bottom level NFL throwing arm talent, and he went to Jacksonville and gained a little bit of heat on the fastball, working through mechanics, and maybe that gave him requisite NFL arm strength, where maybe prior to that he had slightly below requisite NFL arm strength? I'm guessing, really, JT. What do you think? Why did so many teams miss on a guy who played in the Big 12 and was quite successful?
Well, I will tell you this. I've thought about it in the past, and I almost thought about going back to watch my own videos, which I rarely, if ever, think I would ever do. But I know that there's a video, I think it's still out there, maybe it's been blocked since then, but of Brock pre-senior year where I was pretty excited. And I think I felt like he was like a mid-round guy just with his capacity to how he was playing. And then I remember being disappointed going back and watching his last year in college film. And I think I'm verbalizing, probably if it was for the Patreon community, I definitely like vomited out whatever I was thinking. And so I remember being frustrated and wondered why, there was a regression, because I feel like a regression is one of those things where it can really be a detriment to your draft status. And that probably impacted it more than anything else. And so I don't know. It would be an interesting question for you next time you talk to Brock, if you get him in a moment where you can say, hey, do you feel like there was a regression from with your last season performance in college football, and why? And then what was been the biggest jump since then? And maybe he would say Will and that crew in Jacksonville and all those things. And that's probably an element of it.
I'll tell you one thing I do really respect about Brock is he will get in the face of a receiver and tell him what's up if he makes a mistake. If you're a receiver and the route's you're supposed to go in, like last year, there was a route where Ray McLeod was supposed to, break in. He broke out because the defender happened to be sitting in, and Brock aired him out. And I asked him about it. He's like, hey, I got to know where my guys are going to be. You can't deviate. You can't just kind of go and do your own thing out there. JT, is that part of being an NFL quarterback, that you got to have some serious hardcore screaming matches with some of your guys at times to make sure everybody's on the same page? Or how do you view that?
I don't think you have to do that. What I would tell guys, and what I feel like the best guys do, they're just themselves. So some guys are more comfortable with verbal confrontation. Other guys will wait till we're having a meal together. Other guys will wait till we're in the one-on-one opportunity to say, hey, you can't screw me on a route like that, or this is what I'm expecting you to do. I think the easiest way to think of it is you're supposed to be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and not fool the quarterback. And so if you're fooling the quarterback at all, it's not a trait that you want. It's something that you're probably going to impact your capacity to be on the field. And so you want guys that you can trust. You want detail-oriented guys. You hear a lot about accountability and all those types of things, and how you hold people accountable can be different for different people. I was someone who wasn't afraid of a little confrontation, but there have been other guys who do it really well for a really long time that would totally never do that and always do the one-on-one sideway, in the hallway type of, hey, we'll hash this out ourselves type thing.
Digital Drew is the creator of the video game Mortal Kombat. He's one of our fans in Chicago. He's got a question for you, and I think it's a pretty good one. He's asking, does the muscle mass that Purdy put on this offseason, does it impact his throwing mechanics at all? You've seen him in the past, and you saw him this summer. He's put on some looks like some upper body thickness. Is that a concern at all, JT?
I mean, it's not a concern for me. I'm sure there's a point of diminishing returns where you certainly don't see a whole lot of like bodybuilders out there throwing. I think that there is a school of thought out there, and I don't know where Brock falls on it, where you become so. It's almost like the far end of the stick would be like the Tom Brady. It's all not necessarily stretching and plyos, but there's a lot more flexibility versus the necessarily traditional strength training that I think might be a little bit more of what most people would consider like a way to approach rotational athletes. I think there's probably a sweet spot. I can know anecdotally for me, when I got the opportunity to play in the league, the next thing I did was try to get bigger. Like you definitely don't like feeling small or feeling like you don't have the strength that you would love to have. And so to add mass, and if you're able to add mass and keep the flexibility, keep the rotational skill set that he has, I think it's a good thing.
Josh Dobbs. I know you got a video coming out on Dobbs, and I haven't seen it yet. I don't think it's out yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. He's had a very unique career. He looked really, really good at the beginning of last year's regular season. He beat the Cowboys, I think, in Dallas. He played very well against the Niners at Levi's. The Niners got the win, but and then late in the year, he played horrible football against the Chicago Bears, turning it over like 5 times. He might have could have turned it over more times in that game. When you started rolling the film back and forth on Dobbs, what stands out to you? He's had a number of different stops. He's a very, very bright guy. He's a very athletic guy. Does that translate to quarterback?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of embarrassed at how long the video is coming out. That's probably why it's not out. It's taking so damn long to render. He's fun to watch. You nailed it, right? Like pretty amazing to go into, where was he? In Cleveland, had to go to Arizona, play right away, played really well, kind of leaned into his strengths, running, creating, those types of things. And then you saw kind of the turnovers start to happen. And so the turnovers are going to, it's one of those things where at the position, you just can't do it. You're not going to get a chance to play very long if that's becomes a pattern in your play. And so that's kind of followed him a little bit in extended runs. And so in the preseason, when you turn on the film, specifically this last game, I thought he played really well. I thought he leaned into his strengths. There were moments where his athleticism flashed. He looked like the most athletic, dynamic guy on the field. I thought there were moments where he looked like a really polished decision maker, or maybe they weren't the most dynamic throws underneath, but they were out on time. They were super catchable. They gave it right where he needed to be. Those types of things to be able to sort through the idea that
we don't see JT anymore. It looks like your camera.
You lose me?
Well, I can hear you. I can hear you, but we can't see you anymore. We might have lost your camera feed. I don't know if there's a button you can hit.
Try to come back.
We'll take you in audio form the rest of the way if we have to. Is it?
I can sign out and sign back in if that would help you.
Yeah, it might help. That might help.
Let's try that.
We're only going to go another 5 or 6 minutes, but if you can, that would be awesome.
1 sec.
JT O'Sullivan with us from the QB School, and his YouTube channel, the QB School, has 340,000 subs, and I would encourage the nearly 1,000 people that are watching this on the Krug Show right now to go over to the QB School, and if you haven't already subbed, please do. Please sub over there at the QB School and add to the nearly 350,000 people that call JT O'Sullivan a regular as far as their YouTube viewing habits. And we've been talking a lot about Brock Purdy because JT's got a video out right now on Brock Purdy, and he is trying to hook up a video for Josh Dobbs. As he said, it's very long. Let me read this super. Vincent Talley says, how does JT appraise Brock's Super Bowl performance now? It seemed his second review is a bit more critical than his initial take. JT, there you go. We got you back.
Miracle.
You were talking about Dobbs, I think. You were talking about.
Oh, I just was was impressed with his ability to look the part, right? Like get the ball out of his hand quickly, make the easy play look easy, move the ball down the field, and then when he got opportunities to be dynamic and use his feet and make big plays down the field, specifically right before half, I thought he really leaned into it and kind of, flourished and showed the best parts of his game.
Do you think, are you familiar with Brandon Allen's game? And I don't know how much you've watched of Brandon Allen, but it sounds like Shanahan's, really weighing Dobbs versus Allen as the number 2 quarterback. They're very similar in a lot of ways as far as they both have had limited NFL starts and not a lot of success. Allen's 2-7. I think Dobbs is 3-11 in 14 starts. So neither's necessarily been all that successful. But they're very intelligent quarterbacks that operate systems well and play on time. Do you have a feeling about Brandon Allen as a quarterback based on what you've seen of him?
I honestly haven't watched enough of him to have a strong opinion of him. I will say that just jealousy-wise across the league, that backup spot is probably one of the most revered opportunities because if you get an opportunity, who you're gonna play with and what system you're gonna play with. Probably going to play significantly winning football. And it's going to be one of those things that will potentially trampoline your career. You look at Sam Darnold and the opportunity that's coming through there and what it could mean for what he does this year. And so it's a great opportunity for all those guys. And the competition part of it is one of my favorite parts of camp and preseason.
I don't know if you've seen Tanner Mordecai, JT, but I really like the skill set of Mordecai, who played at 3 different colleges, and he ran 4.46. He's got a pretty good arm. He played pretty well. I thought, he started 4 for 4 in the game against the Saints, went 4 for 6. But he has mobility, and he's played a lot of football. Broke his hand last year before the LSU game, about 5 weeks before the bowl game. Played in the bowl game, threw for almost 400 yards. Do you have a thought at all on Tanner Mordecai?
Zero thoughts.
Okay. No thoughts on Mordecai.
Sorry, haven't gotten to that film yet. Maybe.
No problem. And last one for you, and we do appreciate you stopping by on the Krug Show. People are asking, Digital Drew asked this question. He says, question for JT, is the YouTube channel the plan, or do you have any aspirations for coaching? And Brian Greasy gave up a great broadcasting job to jump into coaching. I asked him about it, and he's like, I missed the real bullets and the real success or the real failure as opposed to just kind of drifting and taking the easy route. And he said, even though he's spending a ton more hours as a 49er quarterback coach than he ever did broadcasting, that it's the right time in his life. It's fulfilling. Are you fulfilled by the QB school, or could you be somebody's OC or QB coach?
Yeah, first of all, I absolutely love the thing that I've kind of fallen into here, really. And so that part of it, I don't miss at all. I appreciate it. Do I miss elements of it, like what Brian's probably alluding to? As far, I definitely miss the competition part of it. I know people think of this space, like the digital space, as competition driven. I definitely don't. Like, I think the more content creators, the more good creators, it makes everybody want to come to the platform and share and watch other videos. I think it's great. So that competition part of it isn't part of this for me. And that's definitely, like a potential blind spot. I've tried coaching. I live in San Diego. I've tried coaching high school football. It was a difficult fit for me on a number of different levels. Would I have aspirations someday to potentially coach at higher levels? Maybe. It would be hard because, in the NFL schedule, and you guys know this as NFL fans and people worked in the business, the schedule is so regimented. Like, exactly where you're supposed to be throughout the whole calendar year. Where now, you do whatever you want. You do it when you want. You do whatever's I literally only watch whatever's interesting to me. Like, that might be the same quarterbacks all through the year because those are the guys that interest me. But it would be hard to go back to that schedule. It would go hard to, have a boss or have someone telling me what to do or have meetings. Like, it would be hard.
Yeah, no, seriously, keep doing what you're doing, brother. I think it's fantastic. I love it. People love it. Obviously, the numbers reveal that. Keep it rolling. Thanks for coming on the Krug Show. I know your time's valuable. We'll let you get on with the rest of your day. We'd love to have you back. Keep it rolling, brother. We enjoy your stuff. Steve Baker is an old friend of mine. I know he used to be your agent way back. But thanks for coming on the Krug Show, JT, and best of luck with QB school.
I appreciate the kind words. Say hi to Steve for me, and y'all take it easy. I'm sure we'll check back in soon.
Sounds good. JT O'Sullivan. Very cool. Very cool. Thanks to Kev for setting that up. Thanks for JT for popping on the QB school. As Change Capability Institute says here, the QB school is top shelf analysis. Yeah, no question. Jim Mole says, great stuff, fellas. A couple of supers here. We got Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love. Big contracts. Is Purdy better than both? Didn't have a chance to throw that to him, Michael, because we were squeezed on time, but I appreciate that. And Vincent Talley says, how does JT appraise Purdy's Super Bowl performance now? It seemed his second review was a bit more critical than his initial take. We didn't get to that one either, but we will try to get JT back on here in the weeks ahead and throw that his way. David E says, hey, JT, how do you do a great job, Larry, you too. So how good can Brock be in your opinion? Could he ever be a top 5 quarterback? Didn't get that one to him either, but David, thank you for that question. Thank you for that super chat. As I said, we didn't want to take too much of his time. You guys know me. I can go on and on and on and on and on. We could have kept him here for hours and hours and hours. We don't want to do that because I'm sure he's got other things going on in his day, and I've got to jump off here I'm going to be on with John Lund and Greg Pop on KMBR in about 15 minutes at 11:50. So check me out over there on KMBR. But we just didn't have time to squeeze in all these questions for him, and I apologize because I know these are all really well thought out questions, and I would have loved to have heard JT answer all of these. Unfortunately, we just didn't have enough time today, but we will try to get him back on. CT Niner says, what a great guest. Good job, Kev. Larry, you did your thing once again. We got this one from Kevin F. He says, happy to see JTO's YouTube career take off in a way it never did in the NFL. There we go. Kev equals the GOAT producer. Great. Josh, props to Kev for setting it up. Digital Drew. Huge. Love it. Such a massive get. Well done, Kev. Now it's all about Kev. Kev this and Kev that. Oh, I'm just getting tired of this Kev guy who keeps impacting the stream. All right. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. We're going to do a meet and greet at Pig and a Pickle. We haven't picked the date yet. We might do the bye week. So if you're up to joining us for some barbecue and some beers and hanging out at Pig and a Pickle, we're probably going to meet up there during the bye week. We're really looking forward to that. We'll have more details on that coming up. Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Thanks to them as well for this live stream. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. Thank you to Anthony Catania, and you can reach him at 831-521-5264. Get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle once again. Thanks to JT. Thanks to Kev for setting all this up. And thanks, of course, to all of you guys. Man, good job, Kev. Hey, Kev, good job. Invader 49er. Try adding some exit music in the background. The music, for the most part, is banned on YouTube, but we'll see if we can find some friendly music. There we go. Brad, Kev, good job. There you go. Niners _worldwide. Kevin was named after Home Alone. Kevin! Kev F. Kev's a great name. Google is Skynet. Kevin's father is okay too. Oh my God. System Dad. Oh, MJ, the hell with you with your System Dad. Mike T. It's the Kev Show. Great job, Kev. Kev this, Kev that. All right, join us on KMBR, everybody, at 11:50 with Pop and Lund. That is in 13 minutes. We will be talking Niners on the leader with Greg Papa and John Lund. Until then, join us next time on the Krug Show. Dieter's going to be on later today. This evening, we'll have Dieter on, so it should be a lot of fun. We'll chop it up with Dietz on our big Thursday night extravaganza, which we're looking forward to doing this year. And until then, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.